Welcome, welcome to Jake and to Kelly for the folks who've joined us already. We're going to be using the chat liberally during this short session here together. Excellent, Jake. Thank you, sir. The music, I got a little bit of mood music here in the background. Jake's telling me I'm sounding okay. That's the confirmation I needed. You know, already the teamwork has begun, and we're going to be looking for a lot more of that as we go. And we're going to let Lindsay's Fathom Note Taker in here. I got my Fathom Note Taker running. You all have virtual note takers. I'm into that. All right, I think it's an amazing development in our society that is now possible. All right, folks, just go ahead and get settled in. If you want to wrap up any, close out your windows that you're doing emails on or silence your cell phones, we're going to get into this puppy. And we've got it recorded, so if any of your colleagues are trailing behind, we will catch them back up with the recording on the back end. But let's do a little bit of a warm-up. You know how we do. Let us know in chat, because I want to get to know you. This is not a one-way gathering here. If you can let us know what's your name and company. We obviously know your name, Jake. We got two Jakes here. But are you in sales, marketing, ops? If you want to share where you're calling in from, I'm just outside of Boston here myself. And then where are you at, like, on events? That's why I added these last two questions here. Have you ever hosted an event before? I'm assuming many of you folks have. And then most importantly, do you have an event coming up? Do let us know in the chat. But welcome back to all of our friends who are joining us live and who'll be watching the recording around the world. Thanks for jumping onto this encore of my session at Inbound Beyond the Booth, B2B sales strategies from field events. You can think of today's gathering as a bit of a informal after party where we're going to try to get a little bit more tactical together than we could with our time with me presenting from stage at Inbound. We got Lindsay from Vario, CEO of an agency that leads their sales efforts, often supports client strategy. See, Lindsay, I was wondering if there's going to be some agency folks here on the line. Love to hear it. Your clients do a lot of field events, specifically trade shows. Cool, because many of our clients are in construction. You're from Denver, a lot of trade shows for your clients. Excellent, Lindsay. I hope you'd be willing to come off mute where relevant here for our next half hour or so that we'll be interacting and share with us maybe something that you've done for a client. If there's some sort of aspect of the event, we would love to hear from you. And look what Jake just shared with us. He does 25 trade shows a year, a lot of field events coming up next year. It's going to be a new thing for his team to be able to handle. We all came to the right place, right, gang? Great. So a quick reminder to all of you folks, you're seeing it already. This is not going to be a Netflix binge. This is going to be participatory, so please use the chat like folks are already doing. Welcome to Eric, a good friend of mine and a good sales and marketing collaborator, upstate New York. Yep, and has done event of operations. All right, so once again, a little housekeeping for you. Oh, so Jake's got 3 events the next 4 months. Wow, Jake, okay. Well, a little housekeeping here for you. Today's session's being recorded. If you want to have cameras off, cameras on, that's fine. We chose to do this as a Zoom meeting, so you had the option for cameras on, so it'd be easy for me to take you off mute and interact. But it is optional depending on where you are, what your bandwidth is, if you want to turn the camera on or not. Maybe later you feel like doing it. We'll see. Share openly in the chat, but avoid posting anything that's private to your business or to your client. Also, listen, if we talk about different examples and stories, not all of them may apply to you that everybody's struggling with, but try to pull from any examples we talk about and apply it to your own business's experience. And remember to stay engaged. That's the thing that we're all after for our own events. So participate in the chat like you're already doing. You're doing great. I'm going to ask some informal trivia questions and share those thoughts, take notes. And again, just thank you all so much for joining. And for those of you who will be watching afterwards, it really means a lot that we can build this community together. You heard me at my talk that I feel like so many of us event organizers are out on an island, and I want us now to find our tribe, find our people, and stick together and help each other grow. All right, let's do some trivia here. I want to ask you, what percentage of webinar attendees say they are likely to leave a webinar early if it isn't engaging? What's your guess? Is it A, 15% would do that if it wasn't engaging? B, 35% would leave. C, 50%. Or D, 75%. A, B, C, or D. What percentage of attendees do we think would leave? All right, we're seeing Ds. We're seeing some Cs in there. Yes, yes. According to On24, which they make webinar software, 75% of attendees would abandon a webinar if the content's not engaging. So it just shows engaging content is crucial to keep attendees invested throughout the event. That's why we do little gambits like this and get you folks to chat and interact. It works. It works for all of us to stay engaged and gather more information. So let's take us back, folks, to the Beyond the Booth session that I had. And you folks might recall 5 steps that I talked about when we all got together on September 5th last month. Align sales and marketing from day one around key targets. 2, engage those folks early and often, even prior to them showing up, and then engage and qualify at the event with assigned roles I talked about, making sure there's interactive elements. If it's a digital or in-person event, you have a couple options there. And make sure you have the automated follow-up integrated with HubSpot, automatic text messages for follow-ups, automatic meeting booking links sent their way, that all being synced back to your CRM and sales team. Bring that performance energy. Trying to model that a little bit here to show you to go first here, but we need to do the same for our own audiences. Take that chance. Just give it a shot. You'll get better at it with time. And then number 4, follow up with precision. Make sure that based on all the engagement and interactivity data that you have the personalized follow up and automated workflows to go out to everybody. That's something that we tried to even demonstrate today, all the way up to today. You saw some emails come out from me to you all. You saw me kind of warm you up here all the way to today. That's part of me walking the walk about good follow up here. And then follow up with everybody. Obviously, follow up with the contact, the people who engage with you around the event. Follow up with your sales reps as well. And then take all that momentum, the stats, the performance, the impact across the whole campaign, from the moment that you started promoting the event to afterwards, whether people came or not. Who did you touch? Who did you engage? How did your sales reps leverage this event at every single stage to try to go after their target accounts that you're aligned around engaging? And take that business case and try to get more folks helping you spark community and organize it. And by the way, I would love to have you folks after today help me turn this into a regular monthly session. This is informal today, the first one of its kind, but I'd love to be able to have future sessions where maybe some of you folks, Jake, James, Kelly, Lindsay, or Eric, other folks like that can be featured as panelists. Maybe we'll do a live podcast. I have a podcast. I'll encourage you folks to connect with me on. Those are ways that you can start to get your own attendees engaged in sparking a community. So that was just another key point that I made. But that's the playbook. But now let's flip the script and make it more about applying it versus just talking about it. I want to just ask in the chat, if you would, which of these 5 steps that we talked about resonated the most with you as being a biggest challenge? Could you let us know in the chat, either with the number that you see up here on the slide or write it out? But which one of these 5, when you first heard me talk about it, when we were all together at Inbound last month, made you go, this is big? Okay, follow-ups, turning it into a true community. So to kind of like making it a cyclical, ongoing event machine, we're hearing. Yeah. Thank you, Jake. Yes. So Lindsay said maybe 4. We're talking follow-up beyond a single thanks for coming email. Great point, Lindsay. We know that that's table stakes, that's standard, but how could we do more? And again, I'm just trying to show you in a very low fidelity way how we can walk that walk and begin. And my challenge to you is if we can find even a small gathering you could do after your events, in your case, Lindsay, for your clients, where there's even a couple people. Maybe the follow-up is a couple reps and a couple of key targets on a bit more of a group call, a group sales call, meet with this SME or something like that. Start small, start basic, and expand from there. But completely agree that we could all do better with the follow-up and then turning it into a community. That's how we're going to drive sales. That's how we're going to drive loyalty and repeat buying and evangelism from our own users. All right, good stuff. Lindsay, would you want to talk about something that you are struggling in that area or would like some more support on, or things that are working in that? I mean, you want to share a bit more about what you've been doing for follow-up and what you might be exploring more? There you are.
Hi. Sure.
Hello.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you for coming, Lindsay. I appreciate you coming. And then thank you for also taking a chance and coming off mute here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sure it's so much better to have some engagement as someone who leads webinars. I feel ya.
Thank you. You get it.
No, I think it's we do a lot of trade shows for our clients, and we've really pushed them on being much smarter about how they show up at trade shows. We always make sure they send follow-up emails and stuff, but a lot of times the sales guys are sort of left to their own devices. You got all these business cards. Hopefully you wrote on the back of them whatever you needed to remember before you hop to the next contact. But then much more strategic follow-up that either has content or is like thoughtfully leading to another event is just something we haven't done a lot of. And I think that's smart.
So we have a couple things that Lindsay just brought up for all of us. One is the sales reps, when they're given the leads after these trade shows, it's sort of just like, go get them, right?
If we do anything, a lot of them are just highly relational sales. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
specifically of one of our clients. It's an equipment manufacturer.
Yeah.
That will go to big shows like PWX, which is one of the largest trade shows for folks in the public works field.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll bring their equipment, try to drive a ton of conversations. And then it's very individualized follow up from there. What machine were you interested in? Here's the conversation we had. Can I get you scheduled for a demo? And I think because it feels so relational and so individualized, if we do anything, we're giving them an email template. Hey, thanks for coming by the booth. We'd love to talk more. But a lot of times we're just leaving sales guys to their own devices and trusting that they kind of know whatever the content of that communication was and what the smartest follow-up is.
I'm curious if others can relate to Lindsay. Give us a one if you feel like you also in the chat, if you feel like that's kind of how your sales follow-up goes. And I can relate, Lindsay, that is how often at many organizations, how I as a rep, because I've been a rep, and also how I've dealt with the reps at times. That's why I wanted to change it, start this business, do better, but that's a lot of what we have.
Mm-hmm.
So let us know in the chat if others can relate to that same situation. I feel like that's pretty much the standard. Yeah, Jake can certainly relate. Individualized, it's almost like that's the enemy, individualized sales. And Eric, what would you have to say? Because I know you've led sales teams before and done follow-ups from events at a couple different startups.
Yeah, I think, you hear a lot of times, particularly from the sales rep who doesn't go to the event, that they might have a notion on the quality of the lead coming from the event. Also, the conversations that happen at the booth, if you're using like brand ambassadors or like temporary staff, I know that can always be a concern because, how good is that pitch? How good is the information they're funneling into the lead system from there? So there's just that breakage in the sales process from some of the trade show event leads that I've worked with before. So I think like really having a clear understanding from a teamwork perspective on who is actually going to the booth. Can they actually qualify for a really good lead? So when that sales rep gets a lead, whether they're at the event or not, they're prepared to follow up with it properly. It has enough context to reach out. Like if someone goes through, 10, 15-minute conversation with someone at a booth, and then the sales rep sends a template to them without any additional context, right? That there's going to be some fall off there. So
yeah,
I think that just gets into having a really strong booth presence. If you're spending the money and you have the budget to be there, get the reps there, make sure you're staffing it with employees who are really passionate about what they're doing and really get some good leads. It actually ties a little bit into the community too aspect that we talked about before this. It's, it's not going to be a transactional sale every time. So, this is a community that you're building that's engaging with your brand in person. And really looking at that more as building like a long-term relationship with a group of individuals, and utilizing more marketing and customer resources there versus just looking at it like a straight sale.
All right. So that was awesome, Eric. You raised some other good points to go along with Lindsay. So this is a challenge that we all have. And something that Eric mentioned is another one where sometimes the people who are at the event are not even the reps who are following up. Right, Lindsay? We've seen that too. Like where your client, is that common, or is it almost always the sales reps who are following up are the same ones that are at the booth? There's sometimes an inside sales team where you're feeding them leads.
It can be a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my clients, the sales guys want to be at the event because it's their primary lead gen strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But they often have their marketing team there or something like that would send them leads. But it is most commonly the sales guys that are there.
Yeah. So I have a couple anecdotes I can throw in for what they're worth, and I talked about them a bit at the conference as well. One is we saw when we sponsored Inbound multiple times at other agencies as well. And thank you, Lindsay, again for coming on. So any of us can take this away. We had somebody who was sort of designated as being the checker outer type person. So after somebody engaged with the booth, hopefully you have something meaningful for them to do. We could go on and on about that, right? What's an activation that's going to draw them in, get them to do something that will engage and qualify them a little bit, but having a specific role of a person go, oh, hey, before you go, what was it real quick? And whether if you can get the users to do that, like the actual visitors to do that in that flow, ideal. If for some reason that's not possible, the person walks off or whatever, training your reps, making it standard operating procedure for them to go out to the checker outer person, the debriefer, if you will, and telling that person, who could be a support person, that could be, to Eric's point, somebody you could even hire in or have somebody temporary freelance just jotting in notes into a spreadsheet, or if they have access and it's okay, they could have CRM access if they're a staff member, but just capturing that. And we implemented that for our last couple sponsorships of those agencies of inbound, because we would have it all right there versus, again, the reps racking their brains. Can I remember what I jot on the back of the business card or what have you? So how do we turn this into a community and get them to the next thing? Like for Lindsay's example, big, heavy capital equipment for construction companies or whatever. Telling them, hey, in the follow-up, we are interviewing the people who designed that thing, the people from the manufacturer. We're interviewing 2 or 3 other construction companies that we work with that are using that tool. Almost a little bit of what I did here is could you get the practitioners, whether you met them at that event or you've been meeting them at other events, they're part of your community, to come on and debrief and carry on that conversation, talk a little bit more about whatever we were showing off, teasing at the booth, how that actually works in real life. It's an automatic thing that now the sales reps can and should include in all of their follow-up. So when we talk about that, Lindsay's point, the reps often are it's such a relational sale, they're probably going to do a personalized follow-up anyways. How can we in marketing or event organizers influence what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, where they're going to send them next, besides the very predictable, please get a demo if you want, which is, we know that's going to happen anyway. Give them anything else to talk about that is not about buying yet as well. Hey, you got to come to the next thing and see that thing in action. Hear from 2 or 3 other people who bought the same thing. Hear from our subject matter expert, because those people are free. They're available to do that. So can we always try to have some sort of like a virtual podcast, Zoom meetup, webinar after every event, and then make that very aware to the sales rep so they include that in their follow-ups, whether it's a templated email we give them or a sequence we give them or not. All right, good. And then I wanted to talk about some of the templates that I provided on this, because I know we want to get a bit more practical here and tactical. The event brief. I think this is a great way in the beginning to get sales on the same page as to how the event's going to go. I don't know if anybody wants to at least share in chat. What do you do? What do you fall back on for when you tee up the event? Is it in a brief like you can kind of see on my screen here like this? Is it more informal? Is it more formal? Is it a spreadsheet perhaps? I'm just curious what your event planning process either looks like from a document perspective. Does it look a little bit like this? Is it a sit-down meeting with sales? Is it usually informal, done over email or that type of thing? What are you doing here? Because my thought is, if we want to align better with sales, get them more involved on both the inviting, being more engaging and more strategic with their follow-up, having them in a structured conversation like this with the brief, very powerful. And okay, yep. So Jake telling us this is a gap that we need to improve on. Multiple email chains, a mix of meetings added in. Very familiar with that, Jake, right? That's the world most of us live in and what we're trying to combat, right? Jake, usually spreadsheet, 2 to 3 meetings and lead up. I like that better. I like what Jake Haas says here. Jake Carter, we could move towards that. Maybe a bit more spreadsheeted, couple meetings there in between. And some things that we cover, don't know if you folks are doing it this way, but I just wanted to share some of the things that I've covered with my clients when they hire me to help them facilitate these processes and amp this up so they can scale their events or just be more effective with their existing event calendar. Have an event overview, and these are the questions that I usually ask, and you guys can have these slides afterwards along with the recording. Let's talk about the purpose and the audience. You heard me at the inbound breakout session harp on this a lot, because I know most of us historically have just been like, we'll put out this bat signal. We'll try to make sure we have a great venue, a great event, a great set of speakers, a great booth presence, whatever it is. And we'll just hope that the prospects and the targets that we desire will come find us. What I believe we could do, if possible, not every event allows us to do this, but if possible, try to be thinking about that audience specifically beforehand. Which are the target accounts? Who are the target contacts if we know them? Who actually inside our company knows these people, has some leverage, has some relationship? Lindsay's example, a lot of her clients, heavily relational sales. So that can actually be the advantage. That can be the reason, not the excuse, to get sales involved here early and often, is if this is the type of event that we're going to sponsor, put on, or host, then who are the specific targets we're going to do this for? And if we don't have those targets, maybe we aren't ready for this event, right? Because they're going to, otherwise, because we're going to be accountable for the ROI story, no matter what happens, right? And I think we have the most leverage as event organizers at this moment, before we're already well down the road, right? So I would rather be a little bit of a stickler and say, I'm not hearing that our team actually has more than 5 or 6 target accounts around this event. I don't know if I can help guarantee a good ROI story of putting this on for you guys. I think we need to go back and find 20, 30, 50 accounts that we think have a high intent and high interest around what we're doing. And I need sales to commit to making a relational invite because they have a relationship with them. Otherwise, I can't really tell you if my email only driven approach, my social ad driven approach is going to get these strangers, otherwise to me, to marketing, to come in. Whereas so many of our enterprise clients and stuff like that have these relationships. Let's get that target audience, even if it's a small audience, spelled out a bit more. Event agenda. Our engagement tactics, a bit more self-evident, but that will help us figure out budget. Maybe that's going to figure out who's going to be that debriefer person I had mentioned, who might be an entertainer or a host or an MC in our team. But the agenda and the engagement strategies can help us get volunteers from the talent that we have available to us inside and outside the organization. And then also, promo and post-event strategies. So again, back to my point a couple minutes ago, you can get people to commit. Are we going to do that follow-up podcast or webinar with the machine manufacturers, with the subject matter experts, with the 2 or 3 other customers or clients who have used this, who are our case studies? Let's plan that ahead of time because we're all going to be scrambling leading up to the event. We won't be able to throw that together last minute. And then also, if we had that event ready to go, then we can already write a follow-up sequence and hand it to sales and say, why don't you just do this? So good question coming in here from James. How do you prep for a first time at a show when you don't know who the attendees will be yet? James, would you be willing, since we have the ability to do that here, come off mute and let us know a bit more about your challenges? What have you done there and what has been the challenge that brought on that question? Would you be willing to do that, sir? Just let us know a bit more. You can go right back on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks,
James.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Thanks for coming.
So this past year, we've been attending a number of shows. We're in the GPS and telematics industry. Mm-hmm. And it's our first time arriving on the trade show stage. And we'll stand there at the booth and we just get a mixture of folks. And we realize that it's a lot of brand building and just being there. And we would prefer to have more interactions with sales cycles and make more of it and make it a more productive event for the company. Mm-hmm. And so I want to be a little bit more strategic about how we plan these events. So we'd like to maybe set up some meetings or have a strategy going into these events to sort of justify our attendance there. And when we approach the show organizers for a list of attendees, they won't give them. And we're bombarded with cold emails from companies that have scraped the internet for lists. And we're really just not sure how to navigate that territory and make it count,
Mm-hmm. And before I go in, James, 'cause I had a few ideas pop into my head. Who would like to put into the chat? I encourage anybody here on the line. We got a small group today. What are some things that you have done or even ideas for James as I go on here that maybe you've been met with a similar challenge? I got to assume the vast majority of us have been met with this challenge. You're going to the trade show because you think that's the best chance for you to meet new targets, get in front of the right people. Sometimes you're going to meet some existing clients, existing prospects. A lot of times it's about net new. So if you have any tips for James, stuff that's worked for you, or just ideas, even brainstorming here, let us know in the chat. What came to my mind, James, when you brought up that challenge, which I'm certainly familiar with, I know many of us are, and some of the stuff I'll mention you surely already know, but I think this is about us rummaging through the toolbox and finding a couple we haven't tried yet, or at least not recently, right? So number one is the event having some sort of a hashtag or a feed? So a lot of times these event organizers, they're pumping up this event months and months ahead of time. So how can we stalk and look at where their feeds, their hashtags are to start to glean which of our target accounts are actually engaging and interacting around that? Also for the speakers, the people who are going to be speaking at the event, oftentimes those people are known ahead of time. Those people, it's already a sunk cost or profit or whatever they might be doing to get there. They're either being paid or they're paying to go, and they're trying to probably get a little bit more juice out of that squeeze. So my thought, James, was, well, I may not be able to know every single one of my targets that will be there, but I certainly know the speakers and the presenters and the subject matter experts that drew those targets to the event in the first place and that are already going to be at the event. So what if I turned my sales reps on those folks who are used to fielding inquiries to be on stages, to be on the microphone, to be thought leaders anyway, and ask them if they can do a little bit of an aside at your booth? I've almost by default, James, picture my booth as a miniature recording and broadcast studio. Yes, it's what's happening with everybody here at the event, but for every one person that made it to that event, there were 10 people that wanted to make that event and for whatever reason did not, could not. So I want my booth to be a portal for the outside world, my audience, into the event and vice versa. And it's also a great excuse, as I'm saying, to reach out to some of these speakers and saying, we're going to do a live stream, a live interview, a panel discussion or whatever. And we would like you, as being one of the subject matter experts at this conference, if you have some time after your talk or whatever, to swing by. And we could feature you and a couple of these other prospects, shared mutual prospects of ours, perhaps. So something like that. I'm talking about stalking the event sort of feed and handle to see what your targets are doing, engaging around the event, leveraging the speakers and the thought leaders that this event is already highlighting and promoting ahead of time. And then, just letting somebody back in. And then also having your reps. One of the things I made a point from the stage is that the event is just the excuse for our sales reps to reach out and touch a prospect. It is not absolutely crucial, in my opinion, that that prospect even go to the event, but it's an excuse for your reps to go, hey, are you going to the annual conference for what have you? And they go, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to make it. Oh, bummer. Well, here's what we're doing. And we're going to be creating some material. We'll be doing some interviews and stuff with subject matter experts and things. And we're going to be curating a lot of the key takeaways. Would you like us to invite you to our virtual encore where we'll go over the key things we learned, the best people we talked to and interviewed, and we'll hear from some of our engineers and our subject matter experts we brought to the conference who spoke there? What are they going to say? They're going to go, yeah, sure. So now you have an automatic connection and follow-up with a prospect who's not even going to be at the conference. So I think Fish, in summary, James Fish rather, is to look at your total target audience always. We start with who are we trying to engage with across this year. That's why that's why we're sponsoring these events and going to these events. We're trying to get where these prospects are at. But let's go ahead and just tell the reps, reach out to each of these targets on our list for each of the events that they look like they're in the geo for, or they might at least get on a plane and travel for, and ask them if they're going. We don't know. Sometimes if you sponsor at a high enough level, I'm sure we all know, you can get that list and you can work that list. It's a lot easier. But I'm assuming James didn't bring up that question because he gets that list all the time, right? He's bringing up that question because what if you don't have the list, like the majority of us do? We don't get that from the event organizers. Then I think it's about going after your targets and asking. And if your reps don't want to do that one-on-one, that doesn't make sense, it's too spammy, then doing it at scale on your social handles or whatever. Who's going? Who's going to be there? We're planning this. What would you like us to do? What would you like to see? Are you sad you're not going to go? What notes can we take for you? I think just doing a lot of that prep and that research. Also, I said it before, James, planning to do a follow-up webinar or live stream anyways, so that no matter who you did or didn't engage with at the event and beyond, there's another catch point at the tail end of your campaign around this event to get them to engage, whether they came to the event or not, around the topic and what you were talking about and who was there and that type of thing. Great stuff that people are bringing up here. So the event brief template, highly recommend it to folks so we're not in scramble mode, but also having a run of show. This is another thing when we talk about at the event, whether it's a virtual one, a dinner, a trade show booth, what have you, having a schedule for this is what we're going to do, when, this is who needs to be where, this is what's to be said, this is the technical or content piece or logistical vendor piece that we need, who's got that. You have to do that. Otherwise, people will be coming at you and it will feel a bit more thrown together. So this is another way to ensure you've got a really remarkable, smooth experience at your trade show, your webinar, what have you, so that the people who do show up, you have a good chance of capturing them, engaging them, and qualifying them. We have a comment here from Eric. Target accounts were hard to track down for his company, taking a detailed look at some of the other sponsors, booth speakers, potentially having partner conversations, relationship building. That's true too. James and everybody else who struggles in this area of finding a list of contacts to be able to follow up with. Being able to talk to your partners. That's you might not have been able to sponsor at a high enough level to get the list, but sometimes there's another company that you partner with, technology that you integrate or what have you, where you can get that list from them. And that can be super powerful as well. Done that before. So this is the run of show template. These are just a couple of the key templates I ran through at the event. Does anybody do this? Have some sort of a flow, a schedule for this is what we're going to do at our event? Now, trade shows don't always have a booth presence at a trade show, doesn't always have like a run of show like this. But what about your own events that you've hosted? Whether it's a webinar, a customer event, Has anybody used a run of show, the ROS? It's a common term that we do around events. And I'm kind of curious, like the event briefing process, it's probably different for all of us. Sometimes the run of show is chicken scratch, just kind of on a brief Google Doc type thing, if that. Sometimes it's a detailed spreadsheet like I have screenshotted here, even down to the slides. But what are we doing around laying out the experience and the content that people are going to experience? Are you using spreadsheets? Are we using Google Docs? Let's come clean here because there's a chance we could share with each other what's working and what's not. Eric, do you use the run a show?
Yeah, I mean, the run a show spreadsheet doc would get pretty robust as each event would go on, and you could just duplicate it for the next event. So there'd be 50 tabs on it. And actually, I think it got to the point where there's probably some sort of software that would be better for it. But at the stage we were at, we were just using a run a show spreadsheet doc that had every single piece, every single marketing piece, every single operation piece, every single vendor piece, day of run of show, staffing plan, all those things and all the different tabs. And everybody was in it, very interactive. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there's probably a better solution out there. I'd be curious what other people have used or at what stage you get to where, the spreadsheet just doesn't cut it anymore.
Lindsay shared with us in chat that, if they're doing a live brand reveal or something to support a client, they'll do a run of show like this because there's multi cues in media, like you just said, Eric. If there's music, there's lighting, there's slides, key people have to be in places. And something I like from your anecdote, Eric, was your example, even though I'm sure it's overwhelming, but you had it broken out by tabs. So you might say, hey, marketing or promotional team, you only care about tabs 1 through 3. And then like the actual production team, you care about 4 through 6. And sales, you care about the slides, tab 7, where all the contacts are going to go, or something like that. But you brought up the fact that your run of the show, and this is what I advocate for as well, starts way in the beginning. Like the run is the campaign itself, first email, second email, third email, then the first hour of the actual event itself, then the follow-up and that type of thing. I think it's good to be more comprehensive. Are there other examples folks want to throw in the chat? Let us know. And then just thinking about these things, how else can you use a runner show and be more engaging to audience members? Does anybody want to share something that they've done recently at an event that was quite engaging from a run of show perspective? I know I shared some of my own examples, like when my agency had sponsored Inbound. In the past, we did website teardowns and throwdowns from our booth because we knew that's what people wanted, feedback on how to have a better, higher converting website. Things of this nature. Are there some things that you folks want to share? Yes, Lindsay.
We've done a couple of fun things. One, we have the client I was mentioning that does equipment. They sell pothole patchers. And one of their arguments is that if you provide a better pothole patch, then you're not running around like kind of playing whack-a-mole and just like chasing bad potholes that you have to keep filling because you have a bad machine. So we created a whole strategy for a trade show. We had key sponsorships and we had floor decals that looked like potholes in different places and said, tired of potholes, visit us at. People are asking if they could buy them. And then we wrapped a whack-a-mole machine to say whack a pothole. And our creative campaign was around the creative insight that we heard that the emotional charge was always around complaints from, that's complaints from operators using bad machines or from the public. And so we had a whole no complaints campaign and gave away like headphones that said there's a better way to silence complaints and things like that. And it was actually sold the floor model. It was like the most effective thing they've done. And there, there's plenty of examples like that, but that's one that we just took what would have been a like one and done trade show event and said, how do we create all this engagement? Of course, we did some digital around that too, to kind of drive people to the booth. And it was, it was really effective.
Did you use those two pieces together around the same event, or those were two separate anecdotes around two separate events?
Yeah, we did. We did some digital in advance of the trade show so that anybody visiting the trade show website would get followed around by our brand and told to come visit our booth. Then we did really targeted sponsorships. We also sponsored the map wall and the badge wall and gave people badges that said, I hate potholes. And then our booth paid off the creative campaign. And then all of our follow-up and our giveaways and our swag did too.
Oh, Lindsay, I love it. And I like that it's like multifaceted. So there's, if somebody related to that sort of pothole and the whack-a-mole mentality, we got them. And if there's somebody who's about like, and you did some audience research, you studied your persona, you spoke to these people, it sounds like, you know, you did some market research, you found out what was their biggest trigger point, how do we get them emotionally engaged, complaints, avoiding complaints. You had a second sort of gimmick and a way to say, we get that. And they could kind of commune with you physically around that with the headphones bit.
Yeah.
It's just a better way to position the swag. In that regard. So and I think it's always, I think for all of us, a benchmark, like, you know, you're doing it right when somebody says, can I buy this swag from you? Right. That's huge. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I think we definitely, Lindsay, what's your firm? Can you put your URL in the chat window? I think we need to know you guys because you clearly got some proof in the pudding there.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, gang, we're starting to wrap up. Just a few more minutes, if you will. I really appreciate you folks chiming in and sharing as we've done. This is just the beginning. I'd like to have a bit of a roundtable like this to talk about what we're all doing and what's working every month. And this was another one I talked about, the KPI dashboard. We all know that's important to talk about key performance indicators, but one way that this can be used more, given all of our challenges, is to talk about this before the event happens. It's like, how are we doing with getting people to Lindsay's point, engaging with our campaign off the website first? How are they doing engaging off the invite emails? How are we doing with RSVPs? And we can start to see the burn down. Are we getting closer and closer and closer to the key metrics that we want to drive? So it's not a surprise to all of us at the end of the event. Whoops, we missed it. I've seen certain scenarios, at least once in my career so far, organizing events, we've had a low turnout leading up to it. And it gave me the leverage to say, I think we should postpone this just to buy a couple weeks or whatever. There's only a few people who RSVP'd. It's not a paid event. Let's see if we can just get them to move the date down. That has pros and cons. All right. I'm not saying that's always something that you're going to do, but you'd have no other leverage to do anything like that without tracking KPIs early and often and having it burn down as you go. Are we going to miss it? Are we going to have low enrollment with this thing? Do we have to try to double down with marketing or sales, or maybe even just postpone it because the date was bad? We didn't have enough runway. Very good. If nothing else, the KPI template, having that ready to go and tracking early can help you head that off. These are some examples of strong CTAs after the event. This Eventastic event I had talked about was really great at doing QR codes. I utilize QR codes as well. If we're not doing QR codes, I think you gotta have that going. This is another virtual event. I'd like to go to different virtual events and in-person events, of course, see what people are doing. This one was for someone selling a course on how to become a drone pilot, make money in the drone industry. And I was just blown away by his ability to offer this deal is only good until midnight tonight. And the webinar was at like 9 o'clock. So I was like, holy smokes. And I almost wanted to do it. I was just researching it for another client, but seeing this type of having it very easy to connect like this QR code is a must with a little bit of panache and personality. I did a similar slide myself at the end of my talk, but then also offering this, you can't beat this deal type of offer. I want to do this more. I want to help my clients do this more. I've done this a couple of times when I was working at other agencies and sponsors. I talked about an anecdote from stage at Inbound, but I think this is another dropped ball, is we're kind of offering the same offer, the same pitch for people who engage with us at the trade show as we would to anybody else who just called us or we engaged with off the street. And I think we want to provide some sort of incentive to get that strong, quick, fast ROI out of the gate. Swag is kind of the industry's default and stand-in for like an unbeatable offer. Like, talk with me and you get this. Could we not offer them something unbelievable in terms of the product or the service that we provide as well, in thanks for them coming to our booth or our session? Like for me, it was this encore session for all of you. I didn't offer this to anybody else. You folks got this, and only you folks got this because you came to my session, and only you folks will get my offer at the end to do a free consult on what you're doing and a deeper dive. So try to think about how we can have strong CTAs. Think to yourself, for these events that are coming up, the Jakes that are in the room, the Lindsays that are in the room, what is one thing else that we could offer as a next step beyond what we usually do? Get the demo, talk to a rep. Is there something else we can offer them? We talked about go to a live stream, a podcast. Maybe it's come join our next virtual event. Maybe we're going to offer 20% off to all of our booth attendees for what we're doing for the next, to the end of the month or to the end of the week. Monica, ebook downloadable asset. Yes, Monica, I did talk about that also in my session, and we did this a lot at a software company I was at. We would take the entire transcript of everybody who presented and turn that into an ebook. Actually, HubSpot offered that for almost all these sessions. It was like an AI generated 2 or 3 slide download or debrief generated by AI. and by the way, just a reminder, is that how can we get the sales reps involved again? Ask the sales reps, say, hey, Monica, to your point about the ebook, we're putting together this ebook. Sales reps, will you please call the 5 to 10 top prospects that we all said that we engaged with from the event? And could you ask them what their key takeaway was from engaging with us around that? Or maybe just their key takeaway from the event in general, because we want to feed that into the ebook. That's another touch opportunity that's value adding the sales reps can take. I don't think we do that enough yet. I think it's still kind of hip and refreshing to our prospects. Oh, you want my takeaway, not just the subject matter expert or whatever the keynote person said or whatever your own reps are saying. You want my takeaway as to what I thought? No. They have to, first of all, think about the takeaway. It's a good prompt anyways. You can actually see whatever takeaway they told you, does that match with our event brief, what we thought their takeaways would be? Where's the disconnect? How can we fix that? And it's, again, a way for the rep to say, great, I'll follow up with you, Monica, right? Once we have that ebook with your quote in it, I'll reach out to you so you can see it and hopefully share it with your friends. So it makes a lot of sense to make ebooks out of the content you captured and to feature your prospects maybe in their key takeaways in the ebook itself. Get sales all involved in that. So a quick pulse check here as we wrap up. How confident do you feel your next event will meet your business goals? Learning what we've learned so far, with the encouragement that we've all given you, are you at like a 5? I got this. We're going to slam dunk it. Are we at a 1? I'm still terrified. Or are we somewhere in between? I feel like sometimes I'm pretty much at a 2 or a 3 until the event starts. But let us know, check in, give yourself a little self-check. And if you still feel like you're below on all this, then I'm here to help. I provide this as a service. I can support event organizers and help you shine, help your sales team align better, and I can do it through 3 common ways that professional services are delivered. I can do one-on-one coaching. That could be a few $1,000s a year. We can do project-based support. That could be anywhere from $3 to $10,000 doing around an event, depending on about how much effort and help you need. I'll personalize that to your situation and your gaps, or an ongoing retainer. I have a whole done for you virtual event offering where you folks already are doing a lot of trade shows. I know that. You also understand and believe that your trade show ROI could be enhanced by having an event before, maybe during, or certainly at least afterwards on that follow-up, spark the community. I could help bolt on and provide that community approach, whether it's 4 events a year, 6 events a year, or 12 events a year or beyond. But I have packaging already laid out around that, and I'm doing that, and I can support a couple more companies doing that going into next year. So I just want you to know that I'm here to help. And even if it's just as a colleague, another event organizer, we can always chat that way as well. But I have formal ways to be accountable to help you drive better results. Just want to let you know. And there's been some anecdotes. I shared some of these from stage, but there are people who appreciated this, helped out sales reps, CEOs, demand gen. This is a sales rep, a CEO, a demand gen manager, all felt having a little bit of this chutzpah, this oomph, this charisma wrapped around before, during, and after their event. Even we kind of do events for your sales reps, get them to know before you go. Presentation, they'll knock their socks off, get them fired up. These are the types of things I like to do. And I'm just trying to show you it's real and people have resonated with it across the sales and marketing organization and executive team. I have a URL if we want to keep talking. As I said, I'd like to do this every month and invite you folks in a larger audience as well from beyond the booth group. But if you're interested in talking about a virtual event, maybe that you haven't done or you want to do around your next trade show, we can talk about something you've already tried before, look at that recording, give you feedback, to talk about an outline, a brief that you have for an upcoming, it could be an in-person event too, but virtual, I think, is something that most of us don't have paired with the event itself. Anything you want to look at for adding a virtual component to your next upcoming in-person event, happy to engage what you have done, what you're planning to do, and what you have laid out. Next Level Inbound /Meet Nick is the URL. I'll type that into chat as well, so it's easy for everybody to see. Get us some tunes going here. Get us fired up. And we are no longer strangers. We've all hung out. I want to help you folks succeed in any way, shape, or form. And it starts with just some free advice and feedback and exchange back and forth. And then if we feel there's a business case and there's a need, we can take it further from there. So here's my challenge to you as we ride out. What is one sentence before you go as we close that you're going to take into your next work event from here? What is one thing, whether we talked about it today or it's just in your heart, what is one thing you're going to do? I made another challenge to Lindsay and others who are willing to do it. If you haven't done a virtual component before or after one of your events, try doing it informally. Have one rep invite 2 or 3 contacts on after the event. See if you can get them live, do a podcast or something like that. And then come back and tell me about it. Let's discuss it. Here's Jake. Jake says, I need to start at the beginning, get the planning process nailed down and improved. Please use my event brief template, Jake. Let me know if you want more different examples, other modules to it. Lindsay says, stronger follow-up plan, including strategically placed events like webinar, post main event. I totally agree for that, Lindsay. You guys are clearly pros. You do great creative work for your clients. Why don't we squeeze a little bit more ROI, extend the experience a little bit longer, capture some more of that obvious goodwill and momentum you're generating with these awesome event activation ideas, and just take it further. You know, how can we bring that branding, that swag, that gamification that you're talking about into a virtual gathering? Eric says informal roundtable through Zoom feels much more productive than one-to-many webinar. Or yes, like what we're trying to do here. And that's what I consciously decided to do so people could come off mute easily. Good. So people are already starting to meet each other. Let's find each other on LinkedIn. I'm going to keep this list going. I'll invite you folks every month and we can see each other again and track our progress and bring our colleagues along. Let's help others do better. When one of us makes it, we all make it. All right, so let's all unmute now. We can say goodbye. We're real people, real conversation.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Jake, good to see you. I hope we'll be talking more.
See you later. Thanks
Lindsay,
a
I
lot.
appreciate your contributions.
Thanks,
Eric, appreciate your contributions. Everybody who came in. James.
Adios.
Man. We're going to be in touch, gang. Take care, y'all. Thanks for coming again. Appreciate it. All right. Have a great, happy Wednesday to you.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Bye-bye now.